It was one of those ordinary afternoons in suburban Chicago. The kind where the world outside hums along without a care. But inside your home, everything's about to shatter. I never imagined my breaking point would come so quietly. Without shouts or tears, just a few words drifting through an open door. I'd just gotten back from the pharmacy, arms loaded with his prescriptions, my back aching from years of lifting, turning, and tending. John had been my world since the accident. Paralyzed from the waist down after that drunk driver plowed into him on I-90. 17 years. I'd given up my cozy little coffee shop in Wrigleyville. The one where I'd brew lattes and chat with regulars about everything from Cubs games to heartbreak. Now, I was just the caregiver. The invisible hand that kept his life running. I was slipping off my sneakers in the hallway when I heard his voice. Low and mocking. Talking to the home health aide. Lisa. She was there 3 times a week now. Ever since my doctor insisted I couldn't do it all alone anymore, not after that dizzy spell landed me in the ER. I don't know how she puts up with it, Lisa said softly. Her tone laced with that quiet admiration I'd heard from outsiders before. John let out a bitter chuckle. The kind that used to make me smile back when we danced in our tiny apartment kitchen to old Motown records. Puts up with it? Please. She's no martyr. She's just a free maid service. Always hovering. Always complaining under her breath. I never asked her to throw her life away for this. The words landed like a slow-motion punch to the gut. I froze. One shoe still half on. The plastic bag of meds crinkling in my grip. Free maid service. After all those nights I'd woken every 2 hours to reposition him so he wouldn't get bed sores. The mornings I'd pureed his food because chewing hurt too much. The afternoons I'd driven him to PT sessions, holding back my own exhaustion. I'd missed my sister's wedding in Florida. Skipped holidays with our daughter Sarah because who else would handle it? My friends had drifted away, their invites turning to awkward silences when I always said no. And now, this. Something deep inside me didn't snap, it eroded. Like a cliff finally crumbling into the sea after years of relentless waves. I didn't storm in. Didn't yell. I just straightened up, smoothed my shirt, and walked into the living room like nothing had happened. John was lounging in his recliner, smirking at some private joke. Lisa's eyes flicked to me, widening in that split-second realization she knew I'd heard. She opened her mouth, maybe to smooth it over. But I wasn't there for apologies. I crossed to the supply cabinet, pulled out one of his adult briefs, the ones I'd changed countless times without a word of complaint, and set it gently on his lap. He looked down, confused, then up at me with that fading grin. What's this supposed to mean? I met his eyes, steady as steel. Figure it out yourself. Then I turned and walked out, my footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. The hallway felt longer than it ever had, like I was floating through a fog of memories. Our wedding day in that little chapel in Evanston, promising forever through thick and thin. The accident that stole his legs and, slowly, his warmth. The vows I'd whispered to myself in the dark. He's hurting. He doesn't mean it. But he did mean it. Always had. The betrayal wasn't just those words, it was the years of silence. The ungrateful glances. The way he'd turned me into a shadow in my own home. I leaned against the wall, breathing deep, feeling the weight lift for the first time in forever. Lisa didn't follow right away. Maybe she was stunned. Maybe she was letting him stew. But I knew one thing, I wasn't going back in there. Not as the same woman. Flash back to how it all started. Because heartbreak like this doesn't hit overnight, it simmers, building pressure until the lid blows. 17 years ago. Life was a dream we were still chasing. I ran that coffee shop. The aroma of fresh grounds mixing with the chatter of locals. John worked construction. Strong and steady. The guy who'd surprise me with wildflowers picked from job sites. We had Sarah, our spitfire of a daughter, just starting high school with big plans for college. Weekends were barbecues in the backyard, laughing over burnt burgers and inside jokes. Then came that rainy night. John was heading home from a buddy's place, no drinking, no texting, just bad luck. The semi-truck hydroplaned, slamming into his pickup. By the time I rushed to Northwestern Memorial, the docs were blunt: spinal cord injury, permanent paralysis below the waist. He'd need constant care, therapy, meds, help with everything from eating to bathroom needs. I didn't hesitate. What do we do next? I asked, choking back the fear. Love meant stepping up, right? Sacrificing for the one who'd do the same for you. I sold the coffee shop a month later. The sign coming down like a piece of my soul. Told myself it'd be temporary, that I'd reopen someday. I took caregiver classes through the VA. Rearranged our ranch-style house with ramps and lifts. Set alarms for his schedule. Friends rallied at first: casseroles, cards, offers to sit with him. But life pulls people away. Calls faded. Visits stopped. I was left in the echo chamber of beeps from his monitors and the whir of his electric bed. One night, early on, maybe 6 months in, I was helping him in the shower. His arms were weak that day. Frustration boiling over. Hurry up, Emily. You're making it worse, he barked. I bit my lip. Steadied him. Got him dried and back to bed. My hands shook as I collapsed on the couch afterward. But I whispered to myself, he's adjusting. It's the pain talking. And I pushed on. We couldn't swing full-time nursing. Insurance only covered so much. And John hated strangers poking around. So it was me: baths, meals, shaves, even basic exercises to keep his circulation going. Sarah offered to defer college, but I waved her off. Go live your life, honey. We've got this. Lies to protect her. But they hollowed me out. As years ticked by, John changed. Not just physically, the man I'd married. The one who'd hold me during thunderstorms and whisper dreams of retirement road trips faded into someone resentful, distant. Affection dried up. No more I love yous, just grunts when I asked about his day. Complaints piled on: food too bland, room too stuffy, me too overbearing. I swallowed it all, clinging to duty like a lifeline. Marriage vows weren't just words, they were chains I wrapped around myself. But a voice started whispering in the quiet moments, this isn't living. You deserve better. I shoved it down. Buried it under routines and reminders of for better or worse. The isolation crept in like fog over Lake Michigan. No more girls' nights. No hobbies. I used to knit scarves for charity. But who had time? Sleep came in scraps, interrupted by his calls. Holidays blurred, Thanksgiving alone with takeout turkey while he watched football. Ignoring my attempts at cheer. One Christmas, I found an old ornament we'd bought on our honeymoon, a tiny glass heart. I hung it on the tree, hoping he'd notice. He didn't. Just asked for the remote. The voice grew louder, you're fading away. But guilt silenced it. Who leaves a paralyzed spouse? What kind of monster walks away? Then Lisa entered the picture. After I blacked out one morning from sheer fatigue, up all night with his cramps, the doc prescribed help. You're no good to him if you're burned out, Emily. John fought it, snarling about privacy. But I put my foot down. This isn't optional. Lisa was in her 40s, calm as a summer lake, with eyes that saw through the facade without judging. She handled the heavy lifting, the meds, the transfers, giving me pockets of breath. At first, it felt wrong, like cheating on my duty. But those tower breaks? I started walking the neighborhood, feeling the wind, sipping coffee from a mug instead of a to-go cup. I dusted off my old journal, scribbling thoughts. The sun felt warm today. Lisa noticed my new haircut. Tiny sparks of life. John noticed too, but not kindly. "You seem awfully chipper when she's here," he'd mutter. "Don't get used to slacking off." It stung, but I said nothing. In those moments alone, I wasn't just the caregiver, I was Emily again. The woman who'd once dreamed of traveling to Paris, not just surviving the day. One evening, after a long shift, Lisa caught me staring out the window. "You have a spark. You know," she said. "Don't let it go out." That night, alone in the guest room, I'd moved there years ago for better sleep. Tears came, not from sorrow, but from a flicker of self-recognition. When Sarah came home for a weekend from her job in New York, my nerves jangled like loose change. It had been ages. She was thriving, engaged, full of stories. I tidied her old room, baked her favorite apple pie, even pulled out a faded photo from our last family vacation to Door County, smiles frozen before the crash. She hugged me tight at the door, then breezed into the living room. "Hey, Dad." John's face lit up, voice warm as honey. "My girl, tell me everything." They bantered for hours, reminiscing, while I hovered like a ghost. That night, on the back porch under the stars, I finally cracked. "I'm drowning. Sarah. Your father's. He's not the same. Treats me like I'm invisible. No thanks. Just a man's." She frowned, crossing her arms. "Mom, he's paralyzed. Of course he's grumpy. You can't take it so personally." The words twisted like a knife. "Personally? I live it every day. I've given up everything." She sighed. "You chose this. Love means sacrifice, right? That's what you always said." I stood, pacing. "Sacrifice doesn't mean erasure. He lost his legs, I've lost me." Her eyes softened, but then hardened. "He's suffering more. Maybe cut him some slack." The next morning, I overheard her with John. "Mom's overwhelmed." "Dad, be nicer." His reply, "She's always been dramatic. It'll pass." My blood boiled, but I held it in. When Sarah left, hugging me goodbye with a "hang in there, Mom," I felt the chasm widen. Even she didn't see. The tension built like storm clouds over the Midwest plains. Dinner that night was simple: grilled chicken and veggies. As usual. I set the tray down. He poked at it, scowled. "This tastes like cardboard." "You trying to poison me?" He knocked it off. Food splattering the rug. "Clean it up." Lisa, just arriving, witnessed it all. Her face tight. I knelt, picking up shards, blood from a cut mixing with the mess. "In the kitchen later," she whispered. "You don't deserve that." I shrugged. He's frustrated. But her words lingered. Then, in the laundry room, my sanctuary of humming dryers and folded linens, I heard them again. John's voice, "She's always playing the victim, acting like some hero. Truth is, she's just my free servant these past 17 years. If I could walk, I'd boot her out myself." Laughter followed, bitter and cold. The dam broke. I marched in, grabbed a brief from the stack, placed it in his lap. "Good luck." Walked out. That night, I didn't respond to his calls. By morning, peace settled like fresh snow. I packed a bag, essentials only, and left instructions for Lisa. Stepped into the sunlight, heading to a quiet bed and breakfast in Wisconsin Dells. No grand escape, just space to breathe. There, amid rolling hills and crisp air, I journaled furiously, reclaiming pieces of myself. Walked trails, cried by a lake, felt the release. Called Sarah, I'm okay. Just needed this. Her apology came soft. I'm sorry. Mom. I didn't rush back. The revenge wasn't flashy, no lawsuits. No scenes. It was quiet, letting him face his own helplessness. The silence he'd imposed on me. The cost? Freedom's bittersweet, guilt lingers. But so does the spark of life reborn. In the end, choosing myself wasn't betrayal, it was survival.